Reason number four that God probably exists is that morality is inescapable. Now, this is really focusing in on a little aspect of what we talked about last week, the idea that people really seem to matter. Well, morality is totally unique to personhood. It can't exist outside of personhood. And so we're really focusing in on the idea that personhood seems to be really important and fundamental to the universe and existence as we know it. So here's the basic idea that morality is inescapable, okay? Morality seems to be a transcendent reality. That is, it affects humans, but it doesn't come from humans. It's not relative to us. When you talk about right or wrong, people are appealing to things that they perceive as absolutes, things that are fixed factors in existence that don't come and go with our ideas. Now, morality is entirely about people. You can't call a rock evil for being in the wrong place or being the wrong shape. Something can only be right or wrong truly if it is a person in some way. So if morality is transcendent, that is, if it predates us, if it's above us and beyond us, then there must be a transcendent person. That's the flow of logic there. Okay. Now, it's really important to say that most of what I'm gonna say here, it's been worked through by a lot of people very well and much better than I'm gonna do here. But most of what I'm going to say is really shaped by just a couple chapters of a book by C.S. Lewis called Mere Christianity. And if you want to work through these ideas really well, go read the first few chapters of his book. And it's excellent. And I haven't found these arguments well refuted anywhere in anything else that I've read. So I'm stealing from Lewis quite a lot here. But in what ways is morality transcendent? In what ways is it bigger than us? In what ways are right and wrong fixed absolutes? Well, I think something that demonstrates that is the fact that we find the fixed points of right and wrong to be inescapable. We find morality to be inescapable. All cultures in all known history have fundamentally agreed about the basics of morality. If you look at all the major world religions and all the major cultures that have existed, their moral frameworks have been relatively similar. And you might say, whoa, we've come a long, long way from what people used to do and how people used to treat each other. And there are a couple things there. Well, one is that I'm not really talking about what people do. I'm talking about what people know they should do. And cultures have done a lot of things that they've known they shouldn't have done and have agreed about the things they should have done in a lot of major ways for a long time. And also, as soon as you say that we're progressing towards anything, if we're progressing towards a fixed point, then you are talking about, again, an absolute fixed morality. If we're heading in a definitive direction that is getting closer to good, then good is some fixed absolute that is transcendent. And even if people at one point were a long way off that mark, if they're progressing towards that mark, that is a statement about the fixed nature of that mark of goodness. And even if cultures have disagreed on some finer points about morality for a long time, which they have, the fundamentals have been there. So we might have disagreed on how to treat someone kindly, but we've largely agreed you should treat someone kindly. We might have disagreed about what honor looks like, but we've agreed that you should be honorable, or honesty, or faithfulness, or fidelity, or all these different things. There's been a lot of fundamental agreement. Now, those who try to treat morality like it is relativistic, like it's not fixed, like it's just subjective and we make it up as we go along, I think they fail pretty quickly when it's put to the test. Let's say that you're telling me, no, morality isn't fixed. We just make it up. I choose what I think is good and I do it. well, if I was to come to your house in the middle of the night, break in and steal £1,000 worth of goods, you would not say, well, you did what you thought was good and you succeeded. Fair play, good competition, well done. No, no, no. You would almost definitely tell me that I am wrong to have done that. And as soon as you do that, you're appealing to something above and beyond us. Because if you have a desire to keep your stuff and I have a desire to keep the same stuff, well, who decides whose it is? There's got to be, you're appealing to some bigger idea of morality. Um, what are you appealing to? Are you appealing to society? Well, what if in my subjective morality, society's opinion doesn't matter? What if I say, I don't care what the law is? My version of morality says that I can take the stuff. If you say, well, society has a right to enforce what is good, well, who decides what's good? If morality isn't fixed in some way beyond us and outside of us, if people just get to make it up as they go along, well, who gets to make up the definitive rule? Does society get to do that? Is it the case that those with power get to enforce their views on those with less power? Are you okay with that? Because if morality is subjective, you should be okay with that. Or maybe you say, well, no, it's not about power. It's about the majority. What does the majority agree on? Does society have the right to enforce what benefits the most people and call that good? Well, that's really majority rule. What you're really saying is that whatever works for the most people is what should be called good. And it's basically the same as might is right. And that's how minorities get trampled. That's how people who don't have very much representation in a culture get abused by that culture. Are you okay with that? Because if you think that morality is subjective, you should be okay with that. Maybe you say, no, 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 it's not those things, but it's just our evolutionary instinct. It's just what is developed in us to kind of guide us through this complicated, dangerous world. Is a web of instincts. And I would say, again, that doesn't really hold up very well because our sense of morality, our sense of what is right and wrong, often opposes our strongest instincts, right? Even as all of our instincts are screaming at us to do one thing, there's often something quiet telling us that really we need to do something else. And even if we've acted on our instincts, often a long time later, there's something telling us you really should have done the other thing. It seems to be above instincts. It seems to have the authority to arbitrate between instincts. If you're in a situation where somebody needs your help and helping them is going to harm you, you're going to have one instinct telling you that you should help them and another instinct telling you why you shouldn't help them. And then you're going to have a voice telling you which of those instincts you should follow. It seems to be above our instincts. Morality, right and wrong, operates on a level above our basic instincts. And you might say, well, it's not really personal instinct, it's herd instinct. Again, it's this awareness of what is right for the majority or what works for the majority. And again, I don't think that works. It often tells us to oppose the herd. Our morality often tells us that precisely what the whole crowd is doing and what is benefiting the crowd is wrong. And we shouldn't be doing it. So it's more than just our social conditioning. Morality isn't just us agreeing with society. It's funny, the more strongly someone disagrees with their society and opposes their society, the more we tend to credit them and applaud them for having real moral fiber. When we say, wow, someone has been taught to do XYZ, but they knew it was wrong, and so instead they did ABC, we applaud them for it and say that's real morality when you're prepared to oppose the herd instinct. It seems to me that morality and the questions of right or wrong are not bound up in the facts about what we do. They're not just descriptions of what we usually end up doing. In fact, they're precisely the opposite. They're really a description of what we know we should do that we usually don't do. it's really common, and literature is full of stories, and I'm sure your life is full of stories of you or others doing what they thought was the wrong thing for personal gain or for the benefit of others, and it worked out. Everything went fine. You got away with it. As far as you can tell, the right people benefited, but you still have to face up to feelings of guilt and shame that tell you that what you did, however well it worked, were not what you should have done. It seems to me, and to lots of people smarter than me, is what I really ought to say. It seems that our ideas about morality have nothing to do with the facts of what we end up doing. They are some transcendent, overruling, inescapable, unavoidable, fixed truths about what we should do, whether we actually do those things or not. Our morality is not subjective. It's not relative. It's not even natural. It is supernatural. It seems to weigh upon us from some point above nature. And if that's the case, if morality is above nature, if it's supernatural, if it's transcendent, then the only way that can be true is if there is also a transcendent person from which it comes. If it predates us, then personhood must predate us. And if there is a transcendent, predating, supernatural person from which ideas about good and bad, right and wrong come, well, then again, you've arrived at a definition of God. I would love to get some feedback on that and hear what you guys think. So yeah, come back to me. Thanks.